Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Scott. Hey,
Good morning.
Phil. Hey, Raphael.
So it was Italy, huh, Raphael?
I didn't care, in fact. I didn't care. I didn't even watch the game. So.
Oh man. How did do you watch much soccer? Was it that France got knocked? No. Okay. All right.
It's boring. Soccer is boring.
Even if it's not your sport, how could you have not watched? That's...
Probably some pretty good bar scenes, at least, to enjoy the ambiance, just the energy level of the bar, even if you don't care for the sport. So I'm just gonna execute the general. Hunter's out. He asked me to just kind of lead the agenda at least. I don't see Marie yet. I'll ping her and just see if she's available. Hey, all right. Okay, so I will screen share. All right. So I have, I think we have just 2 agenda items pre-established here. One is Gail's governance pull request. I don't know if people had a chance to look at this. I looked at it this afternoon. Do we have people taken a look or do we need some time? Do you want to go through it live even?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to take a look since the last meeting.
I had a couple questions, Gail, regarding wording slash, more or less context. Let me find what I was looking at here. Yeah. So here, pull requests that do not change the charter or governance of the TSC can be merged into this repository provided the following conditions. Is this then intended to aim at general pull request the entire Magma repo?
Let me find the exact wording on that, just to make sure. It's been a couple weeks since I've done this.
Okay, yeah. I asked because I wasn't sure, like
there's 2 sections. There is a section for, I need to look at which section that is in. There's a section for just this repo, and there's a section for decision making for anything. Okay. And I believe if I'm looking at, I just need to reference where it's coming from and what section it's in. Let's see, where are you? Yeah. Okay. So there's making decisions in general, but then like the TSC repo, that's just like this repo. So your README, anything that you have in this. So there's this repo. We could probably rename it governance repo since you guys renamed, gave it that name instead. But that's a note I can take and change.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's merging PRs into the governance repository
Okay.
versus like any decisions in general.
I actually had not noticed that we were in the governance repo. So, okay. All right. All right.
So I'll put a note in the feedback in the actual notes. So we have that in reference to.
And then actually out of for my education, what is in here? Okay, charter, the README we were just seeing, and then the TAC, which was formed. Okay. So the charter is more broad and the README is it more TSC focused?
Yeah, absolutely. So the charter does require any changes. The charter require like a 2/3 majority vote. Anything we do there, and that's like the governance at a high level, and we keep that kind of generic in order to give the TSC more freedom for deciding how to manage regular operations. And so the README just it's more informational. It's there, of course, to help the TSC with making decisions, but it also is a way to like anyone who's coming in can see how things operate generally. And then there's some guidance in there for like decision making, things like that, in the event that like lazy consensus can't be reached for things. And those were pulled honestly from other projects at LF.
Yep.
I repurposed this. I don't even know who the original creator was of this document, but it's pretty common across our TSCs.
Is it commonly called the README in this repo?
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And is this text? Are these if they're binding, do they exist also in the charter, or is this the only place that they exist, and are they binding?
That's the only place they exist. They're not as binding. The charter is again vague, so this would be binding as to how you generally operate. Generally, you wouldn't really need these. They're kind of available if there's disagreement across the TSC, because for the most part, we generally try to reach things with unanimous decision or unanimous lazy consensus, and that kind of helps with anything coming into question at some point in the life cycle of the TSC.
Okay.
And again, like charter changes require 2/3 vote, whereas you see there, as long as there's no objections and it's approved by 2 TSC members, it kind of allows you to make changes as you need to, more on the fly.
What typically exists in here other than what we have is what we have kind of the end conclusion of this governance, or are there other common documents that might show up eventually?
We'll add a code of conduct as well in here, and Kendall and I got that internally. The kind of current, that's just the default code of conduct, so we'll add that as a document too. And those should be your kind of like starting points, yeah.
Some projects keep their TSC meeting minutes in their governance repository.
Yeah. That's true. Thanks, Andy. I have several projects that do have it here as opposed to Google Docs.
Yeah, it's actually the Academy of Software Foundation. They use a Google Doc during the meeting for live editing, and then they translate that into a markdown document into their repository. Because working with release engineering, if you have things that come out of decisions of the TSC, we require a link to a document that is basically non-ephemeral and non-editable directly. Now, obviously a repository is editable, but there's a change history that it's literally possible to validate that what was decided on is what is being asked of us.
Absolutely. And then another reason to transcribe it into GitHub is so that it's accessible from all countries, as Google is not accessible by some countries.
China, to be specific.
Yeah. Yes.
Some of our other projects might use it for keeping their agreed upon policies as well.
Yeah, that's also something we can include here as well. Anything that really pertains to how you operate as a TSC, how you want to operate, especially as you grow and mature and you come across different situations, you decide you want a policy around it or something else, we can throw in this same section.
Okay, Andrew, this is Raphael speaking. Do we need to at some point to backport all the previous meetings that we had since the beginning of the TSC? I'm just asking a pointing
Do you
question.
need to? From an accessibility perspective, it's probably a good idea to. Just the fact that right now all of your meeting minutes are in Google Docs does make it very difficult for folks in certain country to not be able to access those. Is it required? No, that's all depends upon how the project actually wants to operate.
Pretty much is it will be on Hunter to decide if he wants to do the action.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I guess the main editor beside today, Scott, will be is Hunter, and if he has time to do the transcription back to of the one that he already done from the beginning.
I think really what the decision would be if somebody wants to volunteer to do the work.
Yeah, pretty much. I would say we know the volunteer, but
Okay. So did anyone, are we yet ready to vote on the edits? Broadly, Gail has listed here, which Hunter has a number of comments on that he said, hey, let's just get a vote before we maybe do the final revisions on formatting and things. Or do we need do people need more time to read and review?
I think it's ready for a vote. Seems like the broad thing. I think we all agree that is okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Okay, so let's do the ayes, I suppose.
I
Yep, aye.
Let's just do this. We had Marie Pravin.
Mhm.
Okay. One moment. Oh, tab not working for me. And Raphael, right?
Yep.
And we had an I in the chat as well, Shubham.
Chat.
But Shubham is not a voting member.
Yeah. And I
So
didn't
Mr.
eye maybe, but I will be eyeing. All right. And we can say here, let's just mark here. Something like that. Okay. So I think we'll just have Hunter finish edit cycles with you, Gail, on the markdown. He has some comments here. So maybe the two of you can coordinate.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Security policy. Is Phil here today?
I am.
All right. Do we have updates here that you want to discuss, or did you get feedback, or how do you feel about things?
So I didn't get a lot of really material feedback. I've gotten a few comments that are like, how about this, how about that kind of thing, but they're nothing really material. And I think we could probably consider, what I've proposed to be actionable now. The one thing that I would caution or suggest not sure the right way to talk about it, is that the policy as written presumes that we can develop a secure email mechanism, which I haven't been able to puzzle out quite yet, to receive vulnerability reports, and that we also have a small subset of the code owners who are willing to take responsibility for receiving and acting on the vulnerability reports, or basically being the I don't remember the phrasing that I used, but the vulnerability team for the project. And we'd need to find a way to nominate and get agreement from them, and perhaps if they're Facebook team members, from the project to the Facebook management, to commit to that responsibility before we really put it in place or publish it. So what I would suggest would be perhaps if you want to take action on approving the framework of what's proposed, and then help figure out how we can get the team of responders that we would nominate, or that we would have accept vulnerability reports. And then the secure email part, I think, is purely mechanical. I could work with Gail or others to try to sort that out.
Okay. Yeah, I lack any personal experiential insight to educate beyond. I mean, you already got more here than than my personal experience would.
Scott, to the 98th percentile, that's probably true of the whole Magma team.
Yeah. So I think it looks good. I think it's a fantastic starting point. And I think a bit like the proposal process, we just got to get something on paper and start using it to see where the warts are or aren't. And I think this sounds good to me. So do we want to vote on it?
Yeah, I think we should go for it.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks for doing that, Phil.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. This is just an action item, so as a result of this, we should probably discuss that. I'm sure it was discussed, or I know that this crossed Hunter's mind, but I don't know if it was quite in the format we're discussing here, where there's a duplicate, perhaps reduced, I don't know, set of meeting notes that get transcribed into the durable. So anyway.
Actually, Hunter and I had actually discussed this at one point. I pointed him at I can't think of the name of the tool right now. It's basically a live multi-person markdown editor online that would be able to be hooked directly into the repository. So you could essentially do your meeting minutes directly into the repository.
Interesting.
Yes.
That appeals to me.
But I would have to go hunt that link back down.
I did see a post from Hunter about that in one of the chats.
I must have missed it in the chat then.
I don't remember what it's called, but
I think it was,
definitely mentioned.
hack.md or something like that.
Consider your hunting license issued.
No, that's not it.
I'm gonna call it the Slack hole.
Slack hole.
Where all messaging goes to die and never be found again. All right.
Here it is.
Over in the chat. Is that where
I just dropped it into the call chat. Hackmd.io.
Looking for my call chat. There it is. Cool. Okay. Any other topics we'd like to bring up today, or problem, or pain points, or community pain points, or future?
I am going to make a proposal for this, I think in the next coming week or so, but I think we probably could use like a step-by-step instructions on how to like add a check to GitHub and what how to make that qualify as a required check. Because I think in the past, we've kind of been just doing it sort of not with like, a procedure, and there's been some confusion. So I think there's good to have like us step-by-step instructions on how to make that happen. So
Yeah, that sounds good.
We'll make that soon.
Yeah, and where to announce it maybe too.
Yeah. I think we've gone through like maybe 3 or 4 of those in the past. So I think there's been some lessons learned, and it will be just good to solidify those.
Okay, great. That sounds very helpful.
Oh, and an action item from the previous meeting was to add the GitHub ID to Slack mapping on the Magma doc. And that's up in the contributing section. So yeah, for any other docs that need the mapping or where that would be helpful, we can just reference that document.
Great. Do you have a link?
Yeah, I can get it and send it to the,
Great.
or maybe I can put it in the doc directly.
All right.
I have a question for you guys. One of the Git action is doing a build and a compilation warning check, but I guess is it not required, or it doesn't complain about new compilation warnings that are including to the master branch? Because I did again one little PR today, and I'm a bit afraid of one of the 5G that has 100 compilation warning to be fixed.
Are you saying, is it a blocking, or is it, or how much we should be listening?
I don't know if it's blocking. I don't know if it's blocking currently that to introduce compilation warning.
Yeah, we currently don't have any blocking checks to check for additional, build warnings, I think.
Oh, warnings. Was
Yeah.
it? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I know what you're talking about, Raphael, the 20,000 line merge from the 5G branch to master branch. Okay. So this is coming back a little bit, Raphael, to, I was trying to form a metric system to monitor for warning counts. And we haven't stood it up yet, right? I have that like kind of janky GitHub or Excel spreadsheet post system, but but then more so, how do we block or prevent more warnings from going into, merging with the repo?
Yep. So for example, I do count the compilation warning on the OAI MME variant build that I do in my pipeline.
Okay.
And so for example, this one was in the red. So
yes.
So I was like, okay, and I posted twice a comment in this PR, and
yes,
so for the
I
moment,
saw that.
I don't know, because before, I remember before we were having in the CMake file no compilation warning at all. They were considered as error, and since we remove that now, it's pretty much happy fest.
Yes. I think, I did the warning error removal. That was intended to be coupled with monitoring.
Mm.
The monitoring PR got kind of held up and didn't get completed. But I don't know whether monitoring is a ad hoc or a post hoc method for detecting continuous regressions. I mean, where I would anticipate that PR should be annotated to heck. If it's not, we should look into that. Which is to say that the tooling I stood up to do the warning annotations should be stomping all over the PR's details. And if it's not, then something's wrong with the annotations and we should look at that. The reliance I was assuming with the removal of warning error is that code reviewers would at least look for annotations and ask for corrections. But if that proves to be a faulty assumption or a training problem, we can work on training. If it's a straight up faulty assumption, I don't know entirely how to deal with the situation. But we can discuss.
Yeah.
I've been seeing strong growth of the error counts and the Clang tidy findings too, which are totally not being monitored. But I have some tooling for that, and the Clang tidy findings have been strictly increasing substantially since the 5G code landed by like a factor of 2. So, and in fact, Clang tidy did find some real bugs in the 5G stuff. So anyway, I think that all needs to probably be revisited. But I think we should be blocking the PR probably until some of those issues are dealt with. I don't think it's unreasonable to say let's remove the compiler warnings. So if you need help getting that message across, last I saw on that particular PR also, Raphael, Ulash is asking that it be broken up into 3 PRs, which sounds.
Oh, yeah, so that also, yeah, so that, yeah.
So I'm kind of assuming that it's currently a blocked PR waiting for refactoring into 3 PRs. And then I think we should definitely follow through with what you're asking for and say, let's get these warnings out, please.
And especially, I saw a lot of unused variables or.
Yes.
So that means that for me, it means that it's still a code that is under development, and with then having a lot of printf for debug purpose and with intermediate variables, and that was not removed after the logging. The logging was removed, so I think it's yeah. So that's for me. I mean, what is very worrisome is that you have 100 compilation warning, and some of them might be important.
I think they're all important, probably, actually. Right?
No, I think
you would agree, but you're saying some of them are like really possibly bugs.
Yeah, when you have a %d versus a %q for a printf, it's not a problem. I understand that, but
I'll go look at that PR too and make sure that it, I'll make sure that hasn't regressed.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Thanks for raising that. That's a good topic. Okay, 60 seconds. Anyone with final thoughts? All right, thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Bye.